Useless, the judge hissed, where Darius Cole stood silently before the petty accusation. But just 10 minutes later, he walked in, handcuffed her, his eyes cold as steel, silencing the whole court before a terrifying mystery was about to unfold. What turned the humiliated person into the one in power right there? What secret did he hide that would shake the entire system of power? The tension was suffocating, justice reversed in the blink of an eye. Darius Cole, a 48-year-old black man, stood at the dock, his white shirt pressed, his hair neatly trimmed, his eyes calm but piercing. He was on trial on a minor charge of disorderly conduct, following an argument at a local bar. In front of him, Judge Vivian Holt, 55, known for her toughness and disdain, sat on the bench looking down with a cold gaze. The courtroom was not crowded, about 20 spectators, a few reporters, and a young prosecutor named Ryan Carter. Ryan read the charges. Your Honor, Darius Cole is charged with causing a disturbance at the Rusty Nail Bar on the evening of February 20th in violation of the city's public safety ordinance. Darius stood still, his hands clasped in front of his chest, waiting his turn. Holt banged the gavel, his voice sharp. Mr. Cole, do you have a lawyer? Darius replied clearly, No, Your Honor. I am defending myself. Holt curled his lips, a contemptuous smile. Self-defending? Who do you think you are, standing here as a lawyer? A useless person like you is not worthy of this courtroom. The crowd murmured. A spectator in the back row muttered, Why did she say that? Darius was unfazed. He had grown up in Memphis, had been an undercover cop for more than 20 years before moving on, and had faced enough prejudice to be swayed by the insult. Your Honor, he began, his voice low and steady. I'm not here to argue about merit. I'm here to get the facts of this case straight. Holt laughed, a booming laugh. The facts? You think I care about your story? A lowly man like you should know his place. The courtroom was silent, the air heavy. Ryan Carter interjected. Your Honor, we have a witness report from the bar that confirms Mr. Cole was causing trouble. Darius raised his hand. May I ask about that report? Holt shrugged. Go ahead, but don't waste my time. Darius asked, What specifically did the witness say, Mr. Carter? Ryan flipped through the papers. They said you yelled and threatened others. Darius nodded okay. But I have the bar security camera footage. I asked the owner for it. I'll show it. Holt smirked. Video. You think you're in an action movie. I don't allow cheap tricks here, Darius replied. Your Honor, Tennessee law allows the defendant to present direct evidence if it's relevant to the charge. I have that right. Holt frowned, his eyes hesitant. Okay, present it. A court official brought in a small screen. Darius plugged in a USB, and the video began to play. The image showed him standing at the bar, talking normally, when another man, clearly drunk, rushed up and shouted at him. Darius raised his hand, not responding. The crowd in the courtroom roared. An old man murmured, He didn't do anything. Holt banged the gavel. Quiet. Mr. Cole, what evidence do you say this is? Darius replied, Your Honor, this video proves that I didn't cause trouble. I was attacked. The witness report is incorrect. Ryan interjected. The witness could be wrong. We still have the police statements at the scene. Darius chuckled. The police? I'll talk about them later. But I want you to take note of this video first. Holt leaned forward, his voice harsh. Are you testing me, Mr. Cole? I don't care about your videos. Who are you to tell me how to judge? Darius looked straight at him. I don't tell anyone, Your Honor. I want justice, and I have something bigger to say. Holt smirked. Bigger? You try. Darius took a deep breath. Your Honor, I'm not just a defendant today. I used to be an undercover cop for the Memphis Police Department. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm investigating you. The courtroom fell silent. Holt blushed. What nonsense are you talking about? Darius replied. I have evidence that you took bribes from local gangs to cover up their crimes. I've been recording and monitoring you for the past 3 months. The crowd erupted in cheers. Holt banged his gavel repeatedly. Silence, Mr. Cole. Are you slandering me? Who do you think you are? Darius raised his hand. I'm not slandering. I have the truth. And in 10 minutes, you'll see. He turned to the court clerk. Call the federal police. They're waiting outside the door. Holt stood up. You're crazy. I won't allow this farce. But before she could say more, the courtroom doors flew open. The drama had just begun. The doors of the Memphis courtroom swung open, boots clicking on the wooden floor as two federal Jordans entered. The crowd of spectators dumbfounded, his eyes fixed on Darius Cole, who stood before the dock with a calm but piercing gaze. Judge Vivian Holt, who had sprung from her chair, her face red, shouted, "What's going on? Who gave you permission to come in here?" "Here." Darius raised his hand, his voice low. "Your Honor, I'm calling them. I'm Darius Cole. I used to be an undercover cop in Memphis, and I'm now working for the FBI, and I have evidence that you took bribes from a local gang, the Red Blades, to cover up their drug trafficking." The courtroom exploded with cheers. A 60-year-old woman gasped, "Oh my God, she really did that." Holt banged the gavel repeatedly. "Silence, Mr. Cole. You dare to slander me in my own court?" Darius was unfazed. "No slander, Your Honor. I have a recording of you meeting Leon Blade Mercer, the leader of the Red Blades, at a warehouse in East Memphis 2 weeks ago." He pulled a small device from his pocket, a mini recorder, and held it up. "This is proof, and I sent a copy to the FBI before I came here." Holt paled, her voice shaking. "It's a forgery. You have no right." The Jordan, named Jordan Blake, stepped forward. "Miss Holt, we are FBI Jordans. We received a recording from Mr. Cole this morning, along with bank records, showing you received $50,000 from an account associated with the Red Blades. We need your cooperation." The crowd erupted, and Prosecutor Ryan Carter stood up. "Your Honor, this is—" "I don't know about this." Holt shouted. "Sit down, Carter." "Mr. Cole, you are a liar. I will sue you." Darius chuckled. "Go ahead, Your Honor, but listen to this first." He pressed a button on the recorder, and Holt's voice came through clearly. "Leon, I need another $50,000 to shut up last week. Wire transfer the money like last time." Then a man's voice said, "Okay, Vivian, but keep quiet. We don't want the FBI getting in the way." The courtroom fell silent, then erupted in shouts. "She sold out justice." Holt banged on the table. "Turn it off. It's fake." "I don't know, Leon." But Jordan Blake raised his hand. "Miss Holt, we verified the voice with the voice analysis technology. It's a 98% match to you. We also have a warrant for your arrest for bribery and obstruction of justice." Holt backed away, her hands shaking. "You can't do that. I'm the judge." Darius stepped forward. "You were a judge. Now you're a suspect. I've spent 3 months investigating you. The disturbance charge was just an excuse to stand before you today." The crowd roared. One spectator murmured, "He's playing big." Holt shouted, "Who are you to do this to me?" Darius looked straight at her. "I'm the guy you called useless 5 minutes ago, but I spent 20 years catching criminals like the one you're protecting. I have enough evidence to end your career." Jordan Blake interjected, "Miss Holt, we have orders. Come with us now." Holt rushed to the podium, shouting, "I'm not going anywhere. This is my court." But the female Jordan Cruz, stepped forward. "Miss Holt, don't make things difficult for us. Mr. Cole, please." Darius pulled a pair of handcuffs from his pocket and approached Holt. "Vivian Holt, you are under arrest for bribery and obstruction of justice." He handcuffed her, and the crowd stood up, applauding loudly. Holt struggled. "Let me go. You have no rights." Darius replied, "I have the rights of the law, which you have sold out." He led her to the door. Hayes and Cruz followed. The courtroom shook with cheers. An old woman shouted, "Justice." The reporter quickly noted, "Judge arrested in court by the defendant." Unbelievable. Ryan Carter sat there, head in hands, not knowing what to do. Darius turned to the crowd, raised his hands. "Thank you for being here. This isn't about me. It's about keeping the law clean." The applause was thunderous, but the story wasn't over. Darius' final act would be remembered by all of Memphis. 2 FBI Jordans, Blake and Cruz, led Holt to the door, where she struggled and screamed, "You will pay. I did nothing wrong." But her eyes were panicked. No longer the arrogance of 10 minutes ago when she called Darius useless. Darius stood in the middle of the room, his white shirt slightly wrinkled from the arrest, his eyes calm but determined. He raised his hands. Everyone calm down. This is not my victory. This is the victory of the law. The crowd fell silent, listening. An old woman clutching her handbag shouted, "You make us proud, Darius." He nodded. "Thank you, ma'am. I was just doing my job." Jordan Blake turned and shook Darius' hand. "Cole, you did a great job. We've been investigating Holt for 6 months, without any hard evidence. You're the key." Darius chuckled. "When you say a judge sold justice to the Red Blades, I can't sit still." Cruz interjected. "We're taking her to headquarters. Do you want to join the interrogation?" Darius shook his head. "No, my mission's done, but keep me posted. I want to know the end." Outside the courthouse, the news exploded. A local reporter standing at the door said into the camera, "Judge Vivian Holt has just been arrested in her courtroom by Darius Cole on charges of accepting bribes from the Red Blades gang. This is unprecedented in Memphis." Video of the arrest went viral within 20 minutes. In the courtroom, Prosecutor Ryan Carter sat silently, his face pale. He stood up and stammered, "Sir, everyone, I don't know anything about this. Mr. Cole's charge of disorderly conduct. I withdraw it." Darius turned to him. "Thank you, Carter. But next time, check carefully before you put someone on trial." The crowd laughed and Ryan bowed his head and left the room embarrassed. A group of spectators surrounded Darius, shaking his hand. A 50-year-old man who had worked at the police department said, "Reed, I remember you from undercover. You are not there anymore, and you are still doing this kind of thing." Darius replied, "When the FBI calls, I don't say no." Holt dirtying her chair. "I have to act up." The man nodded. "Memphis owes you a thank you." Outside, Holt was pushed into the FBI car, her eyes glaring through the windshield at Darius standing in court. She whispered, "You'll pay, Cole." But Blake closed the car door, his voice cold. "You should worry about yourself first." The car rolled away. The crowd outside cheered justice. A mother held up her phone to film, shouting, "Thank you, Darius." Darius stepped outside, the Memphis sun shining on his face. He pulled out his phone and called an old friend, Caleb Dawson, who had been a colleague at the police station. "Caleb Dawson, it's over. Holt's in custody. The FBI has enough to finish her off." Caleb Dawson laughed through the speaker. "Darius, you're crazy. Are you playing big? Are you going back to the police station?" Darius replied, "No, Caleb Dawson, I'm done, but I have one last thing to do." The news spread across TV and social media. Memphis judge arrested in court by ex-undercover cop, accused of gang bribery. A 70-year-old man watching at home told his wife, he didn't just arrest her, he exposed the whole system. The video of Darius handcuffing Holt has been viewed more than 3 million times, with comments flooding in. Darius Cole is a legend. Holt deserves it. At FBI headquarters, Blake and Cruz interrogate Holt. She screams, "I didn't take any money from Red Blades." Reed forged evidence. But Blake puts the recording and bank statements in front of her. "How do you explain this, Miss Holt? Your offshore account, under your assumed name, received $500,000 on the date in the recording." Holt is silent, her hands shaking, knowing she has no way out. Darius sat in his car, taking one last look at the courthouse. He didn't want the glory. He did it for the years of witnessing injustice. But he knew the case wasn't over. His final act would shock Memphis. He texted Blake, "Call me when you're done with Holt. I have an idea." The drama was winding down, but Darius's mark was just beginning. Dusk fell over Memphis, Tennessee, hours after Darius had handcuffed Judge Vivian Holt in the courtroom. The news was still playing on every channel, and Darius sat in his car parked near the courthouse, his white shirt wrinkled, his eyes fixed on the crowd still gathered outside, holding signs that read, "Darius Cole, Memphis hero." Jordan Blake called Cole, "Holt's talking." She admitted to taking $1 million from Red Blades and 2 transactions to cover up drug dealing. "You did the unthinkable." Darius chuckled. "Hayes, I just want a clean bench." Hayes replied, "Clean? But what do you mean you have an idea?" Darius took a deep breath. "I want to use this to do something bigger. Memphis has a long history of corruption, not just Holt. I propose setting up a community fund to help victims of wrongful convictions. I'll run it. No salary, just to help. Blake paused, then said, Reed, you're crazy. But it's a good idea. I'll tell the higher-ups if they agree you can get funding from the FBI. The next day, Darius stood in court, no longer the defendant but the spokesperson. The crowd of more than 100 people, fans, members of the public, and a few former colleagues, clapped as he stepped onto the makeshift podium. He raised his hands. Thank you for your support. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for the voiceless. Holt was arrested, but how many more are being covered up? The crowd nodded, and a 65-year-old man shouted, You're right, Darius. He continued, I propose the Memphis Justice Fund, using donations to help victims of wrongful convictions hire lawyers and seek justice. I will manage it for free. Anyone who wants to contribute, come see me. There was loud applause. A mother raised her phone. I'm donating $50 right now. Shaq O'Neal, watching the news remotely, tweeted, Darius Cole is the GOAT. I'm donating $10 to your fund. In 24 hours, the fund received more than $50 from fans across the U.S. The news spread. Former undercover cop turned honorary FBI Jordan Darius Cole catches corrupt judge, builds justice fund from case. The FBI announced Vivian Holt faces 15 years in prison for bribery and obstruction of justice, thanks to Darius Cole. Holt in jail stared at the wall, knowing her career was over. A week later, Darius opened a small office for the Memphis Justice Fund in an old building near the police department. He stood at the door, cutting the ribbon with Hazen Cruz, and said simply, This is where justice begins again. For the forgotten. The crowd applauded. One man wrongfully imprisoned stepped forward. Darius, I need your help. I lost 5 years for a bogus case. Darius shook his hand. I'll help you, starting today. The press hailed, from defendant to hero, Darius Cole changes Memphis. An old lady, who had been in the courtroom, sent him a letter. You made me believe in justice again. Thank you. Darius read the letter, put on the table, smiled. That's why I do it. The foundation quickly received another $100,000, and Darius began working with volunteer attorneys to review old cases. The following month, Darius was invited to FBI headquarters in Memphis. Blake handed him a badge of honor. Reed, you're not officially in Jordan, but you're part of us. Holt is just the beginning. Do you want to keep helping? Darius laughed. If I need you, I'll come back. But right now I'm focused on the foundation. That's my fight. Blake nodded. You're a rare Cole. As Darius left Memphis to visit his family, he looked back at the courthouse through the windshield. From Holt's insult, he hadn't just turned things around in 10 minutes. He'd built a legacy. A 68-year-old uncle standing nearby told a friend, he didn't just arrest her. He gave us hope. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you like this content, please click like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next meaningful stories, because tomorrow we will have another meaningful story for you.